Let's talk about the Minwax Stainable Wood Filler here. Like I said, it is stainable, which means that you can apply stain to it after you use it. It also is paintable. I've done both. I've stained and painted, as I'll show you here in a little bit. Interior and exterior use, that's really good. If you're going to use this outdoor, make sure you're buying an exterior one, and this one is that, and it does dry super fast, and it does does sand very easily. Let me show you a project I just did with it, where I took some Adirondack chairs and used this to fill nail holes, and then I stained it and I sealed it. And their wood filler, if you want to come in and look at it, in comparison to the Fama wood, it's got a much more pebbly look to it. It's got a much more pebbly feel to it. This is a very popular wood filler, so you'll find it all over. All right, so again, here we have some deep nail holes that are in the arm of the chair, the Adirondack bench here. And so what we're going to do is try to fill these entirely all the way to the top with wood filler. All I do is just take my putty knife and I get, a dollop size amount on there. And you can go with the grain, you can go against the grain. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to work the wood filler in all the way into the hole. And you don't want to shortchange yourself. You don't want to stop too soon. Obviously that is not full all the way with wood filler, but believe it or not, that's not either. There's still a slight cupping that's happening there, and that's going to be noticeable once you're done sanding, and then when you add the stain to it. Depending on how deep that hole is, you might want to cover it just like we did right there. And so right there, you're going to see that I basically covered the area, and it's actually above the wood itself. And that's the recommended best practice. The reason is because it's going to allow it to harden inside the hole, and then we're going to come and just sand it off. But we don't run the risk in this case of underfilling it and leaving that cupping. We actually waited about a day. You can start sanding within about a half an hour, depending on your weather conditions. But we waited about a day. If you have the time to wait, it never hurts. And so let's come in and take a look at this. You'll see that, again, just like we saw in the actual Minwax container, it dries pretty pebbly and pretty rough. It's gonna be very abrasive. Obviously you have to sand that down. Like we talked about in the video, you kind of overfill a bit so that, so this is a bit above the actual wood piece itself. If you come over here, you can really see the abrasion and the pebbly nature. All right, so we're all done with the staining, and we've added a varnish, a spar varnish actually, to protect these for the outdoor, and we can kind of evaluate now how our wood filling worked. And what you're gonna see is that it worked very, very well. I'm letting the exposure be a little high here so you can actually see. The wood is actually a little bit darker, but the way the camera is picking up on it is brighter. So you can kind of see what happened here, but you can see barely some evidence of where we filled the wood holes. But again, it's one of those things where you're really gonna have to know it's there to identify it. And that's one of the more prominent ones. If we look around over here at the other arm, you can see that there's basically no evidence that we filled the wood in here. I'm gonna come down, and you can see down here, there's a little bit of evidence that we filled this little wood hole right here. But by and large, it just does such a great job, especially when you overfill and then you sand it down. I think those are probably the big keys as you're looking at how to do this, is to overfill a bit and then sand down. For the most part, we cannot see much evidence of any wood holes that we filled here. So that's the great part about a stainable wood filler, is if you're planning on staining something, then it can be absolutely wonderful because you can fill these wood holes without having to have any effects. And you might want to keep some of those wood holes if you're not staining. But if you're staining something, and to give it a little bit more of a robust and professional looking finish, well, look at how great of a job it does.